Greetings, honorable judges. Before we start, let us ask you something. What is the most important organ you cannot live without? I believe you're thinking about your heart, lungs, or your brain. But did any of you think, my pancreas? I can't live without my pancreas. I'm assuming that didn't even cross your mind. Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Marco Raditya.
My name is Fabiola Kathleen.
And my name is Daniel Edward.
The three of us will be representing our other teammate, Christian Kurniawan, in presenting our review with the title, Childhood Obesity as a Predictor to Diabetes Mellitus Type 2 in Adults, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. Now let's go back to the topic. Pancreas is an organ located behind the stomach where small clusters of cells, the beta cells, exist. These beta cells comprise 2 grams of the pancreas, which resembles the size of 2 almonds. But seriously, without them, you will literally not survive. These life-giving cells surprisingly gets no attention. It is responsible for the production of insulin, a hormone which controls storage of blood glucose in human body. However, just like anything that gets overused, beta cells will burn out when there is prolonged elevated plasma glucose, leading to insulin resistance and eventually diabetes mellitus type 2. It has always been an epidemic. In 35 years, the number of diabetic individuals has risen up to 4 times, from 108 million adults in 1980 until 422 million in 2014. The mortality rate is also not a laughing matter, as its number have reached a whopping 3.7 million deaths in 2012. That's at least around 7,400 jumbo jet crashes. Can you imagine that? Even only one jumbo jet crash gets the whole world in shock. But somehow, the incidence of diabetes just keeps increasing year by year, as if it doesn't even mean a thing. Furthermore, this disease has also taken its toll on the global community, costing 827 billion US dollars losses in 2013. With this current modern lifestyle, diabetes will only increase, creating a financial disaster. It is a global emergency. But what's ironic is that up until today, even with both curative and preventive efforts from WHO and governments, we are no closer to bringing diabetes to a stop. Thus, a new breakthrough on diabetes prevention is largely needed. Surrounding this matter, many research has been performed lately to assess the relationship between childhood obesity and adult-onset diabetes, as obesity is often considered as the greatest risk factor for diabetes, and whether prevention of childhood obesity can reduce the risk of diabetes during adulthood.
As this type of review has never been done before, through this endeavors, this review is anticipated to increase public awareness on the importance of dealing with childhood obesity, along with its implication on future diabetes comorbidity. Furthermore, we hope that the results of this review can be implemented into the pre-existing practical evidence-based guideline for early diabetes screening and prevention. We believe that by applying the objectives stated above, this review will stand in the forefront of new strategies in combating diabetes mellitus type 2 as a silent threat in achieving WHO's Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Now, we move on to the methodology. The review is based on PRISMA statements, flowchart, and checklist. Through 8 database and additional searches, we retrieved a total of 237 records. After duplicates removal, screening, and full text eligibility test, 10 studies are included in the qualitative synthesis. The inclusion criteria includes minimum 1,000 participants at follow-up, age of participants at baseline less than or equal to 18 years old, measures obesity and diabetes mellitus type 2 indicators, and provides long-term assessment result of childhood obesity and adult-onset diabetes mellitus type 2. While the exclusion factor includes language other than Bahasa Indonesia and English, incomplete article, and publication year older than 2000. 5 of 10 studies that provided each sample's group size and accepted definitions of child obesity and adulthood diabetes were included in meta-analysis. Assessment tool of bias for included studies is Newcastle-Ottawa scale for a cohort. Moreover, risk of bias in this review were checked by Cochrane Handbook. Then, using the Review Manager software, we analyzed the data to form a forest plot and a funnel plot.
For the result, we have included a total of 73,533 participants from 10 studies. Bias assessment for included studies showed a minimum result of 8 out of 10, with studies from Hu D and Liang Y holding the least risk of bias. Morrison showed the highest OR of 5.49 and Lawler showed the lowest OR of 1.22. From the forest plot in this meta-analysis, associations of childhood obesity and adulthood diabetes was positive and statistically significant, with the OR of 3.89 with 95% confidence interval of 2.97 until 5.09, with the p-value of less than 0.00001. The result of the heterogeneity test was 0%, emphasizing homogeneity and comparability of the studies in the meta-analysis. The final plot shows similarity. Based on the result, an obese child is 3.89 times more likely to experience adult-onset diabetes. Studies suggest that this connection is due to two things: early adiposity rebound, which causes children to enter the obesity cycle earlier in life, increasing the risk of adult obesity, and early onset insulin resistance, explaining why diabetes is more likely to appear during adulthood and not before, as insulin resistance requires a long time to develop into diabetes. This study's strengths include usage of structural guidelines, low risk of bias in included studies, large cohort population, various countries representation, 0% or no study heterogeneity, and high study specificity. However, the limitations are few included studies and bias from accepted definitions. In conclusion, this systematic review and meta-analysis has found that individuals with childhood obesity has a higher risk of adult-onset diabetes. The findings of this study is applicable in the field of public health, both as a screening method and prevention for adult diabetes, in order to achieve Sustainable Development Goals. Further research regarding other measurements evaluating obesity itself and other body compositions could also be done to discover presence of more sensitive and specific obesity measurements and to analyze other variables during childhood that is related to adult-onset diabetes respectively. Age stratification and area-specific research should also be done in order to have a detailed causality for each age group and certain areas. To close this off, we as medical students have the obligation to make a change in this world through medicine.
Let us join our hands, reduce child obesity, and stop this silent killer before it's even there.
You have the knowledge, and you have the power.
Start early, think ahead, and let us move forward to a sweeter future free of diabetes.
Thank you.